Back here on HQ Spotlight on CBS Sports Network, we are taking a look at Adam Finkelstein's latest mock draft. The first round here, 1 through 14. It looks like the Kings, so some good news for the Kings.
I'm looking at this feels good all around for our household. Good. I like Darryn Peterson to the Kings. He's an incredible player, but Caleb Wilson is what I'm looking at.
I'm looking at my boy Tommy Haugh because that feels like a steal for me. OKC, well, not for me, for the Thunder. The rich get richer, and they're getting a phenomenal player in Thomas Haugh out of the University of Florida, but I digress. Let's welcome in the fellas, Adam Finkelstein and Kyle Boone, as we go through this mock. The Kings, as we have discussed many times on this program, they have the worst record in the NBA. They have lost 10 straight. So what does a talent like Darryn Peterson, and it is a lot of talent, bring to the table here for that franchise?
Well, he would give him something to be excited about. And as you so accurately noted there hasn't been much lately. And this is a fan base that really deserves it, right? This is an enthusiastic group that is really hoping that they strike gold in this lottery, because not only Peterson, but Dybantsa and Boozer are all, I should say, franchise-changing talents. This is someone who finished as the #1 recruit in high school basketball last year. And while he's had these on again, off again, let's call it bizarre, according to one NBA scout, availability issues, when he's been on the floor, he has been fantastic. The shot making has been far better than we ever expected. Combine that with his positional size, his length, his physicality. I don't think most people have an idea of what he looks like when he's fully 100%, because he hasn't moved with the same force and explosiveness except for small bursts. So suffice it to say, whether it's the Kings or whoever gets the #1 pick, they have a real potential franchise changer available in Darryn Peterson.
Yeah, and I think to add to your point, there's no question Darryn Peterson right now is the #1 prospect if you poll NBA teams. And the only question for Peterson, it's not about his ability, it's about his availability. You know, he's played basically half of Kansas's games. When he's playing in those games, sometimes he's playing only half of those games. So the shot making, as Fink noted, is just fantastic. I think it's been a revelation for Kansas, which has been fantastic since he's returned from injury. Some shades of Kobe Bryant, just with the way that he can get his shot off and be his own offensive ecosystem. 97th percentile catch and shoot. He does a little bit of everything. He's the clear #1 prospect in this class.
Okay, so I did text the Kings fan in the family, my husband. I asked him if he's excited about Adam Finkelstein's pick there, Darryn Peterson. He said, quote, "We got screwed the last time they drafted a star guard from Kansas and Ben McLemore, so maybe I'm too jaded at this point." So we're not even excited about Darryn Peterson here, Adam Finkelstein.
Spoken like a true Kings fan. Nice and jaded.
I mean, that just sums it up, right? To be a Kings fan. Kudos to him for staying true to the club, though. There aren't many of those left, those Kings fans.
We are loyal to the soil.
Exactly.
In our household.
And all 12 wins that the team has right now. Okay, let's make our way down this draft board here, where we have Indiana selecting at 2, because if their pick lands between 5 and 9, it goes to the Clippers. So obviously that is a good reason to try and keep losing Adam so you can get Cameron Boozer.
Yeah, but losing's going to be a little bit more difficult after the deal they made before the trade deadline. They bring in Zubac, who is their starting center. Remember, they just lost Miles Turner last year in free agency. Tyrese Halliburton still out with the torn Achilles. So you combine Zubac with Halliburton and then Pascal Siakam, and you're in win now mode. And it's tricky because they had to trade a draft pick in that Zubac deal, but it is protected 1 through 4 and then 10 through 30. So basically they lose it if it's between 5 and 9. Now, if they luck out, they manage to lose enough where they get the second pick here, it would be a choice between Boozer and Dybantsa. But because they are in win now mode, I think Boozer could be more enticing for them. He may not have the same long-term floor as Dybantsa, but in terms of being able to come into the NBA, play a role, and contribute to winning right away, there is nobody that can match this guy's resume and just proven ability to win basketball games.
All right, so the Nets, they currently have a 48% chance of landing in the top 3. So in this case, Adam, you have them taking A.J. Dybantsa out of BYU. So, Kyle, what do you think about that potential pairing?
I love it. I think, if I'm in an NBA team picking at #2, I'm probably looking at Dybantsa. So at #3, I think that's fantastic value. He leads college basketball in scoring so far this season for BYU. He's an alpha as a shot maker, as a shot creator. There's some questions maybe about his handle and his polish. projecting to the next level. But in terms of the just positional size, the fluidity with which he moves, checks a ton of boxes for a guy who I think can be a multi-time all-star. If I'm the Brooklyn Nets picking at number 3, I think the choice is obvious. It would be Dybantsa here at number 3.
Okay, so now we go to number 4, where we have Haley's team, the Mavs, taking Caleb Wilson. And so, Fink, what does he complement in terms of Cooper Flag and what the Mavs are trying to build for the future? Because that's really what we're doing here, right?
It's 100% what we're doing here after we gave away Anthony Davis for far more than we would have hoped after that Luka Doncic trade. But that's old news. We won't bring that up. What I would say is this is clearly all about building around Cooper Flag, and they want to lose right now to get the best pick possible because they don't control their first-round pick again after 2026 until 2031. What Caleb Wilson gives them is an elite athlete at the 4 spot. The hope is that Derek Lively will come back, be healthy, be durable, and now you have your front line of the future with Lively, Wilson, and a very versatile big wing in Cooper Flag who can initiate at times. Wilson has defensive playmaking tools extraordinaire. He's also potentially versatile as soon as he can start to read the game on that end of the floor as quickly as he can react athletically. Now, offensively, he's been way ahead of schedule this year at North Carolina. Very few people, including myself, expected him to come up and put up 20 points per game, but he's done that. Just how much of his mid-range centric game translates to the NBA, though, that is still a little bit of a wait and see.
Yeah, and obviously the defensive playmaking is what you love from Caleb Wilson here. You're looking for someone who checks a lot of boxes in terms of the productivity thing, but also like just the edge and the personality. I think would make for a good running mate with Cooper Flag. Go back a year ago with Cooper Flag. This was a guy who liked to talk his talk, but he walked his walk. And that is the same with Caleb Wilson. Like, he is not afraid to be a little bit fearless on the court. He brings a competitive edge. And I think if you're the Dallas Mavericks kind of building this franchise, getting guys who have that competitive edge, who can kind of set the agenda every single day, Caleb Wilson checks those boxes as well. I love this value at number 4.
So we're going to go from AD's old team to his current team in the Washington Wizards, and they keep that pick if it lands within the top 8. You have them selecting Kingston Flemings, Fink.
Well, that's the key right there, if it lands within the top 8. And ownership has said, hey, we're going to win right now. Anthony Davis, Trae Young. I think the caveat, though, may be not quite right now because we want this pick. So we're going to try and contend next year. Whether or not Anthony Davis goes ahead and has that wrist surgery, I wouldn't be surprised. What Kingston Flemings gives them is an understudy for Trae Young, someone who can learn from him in the short term and then take over for him in the long term. He also would fit very nicely next to Trey Johnson, who they drafted in the lottery last year. Flemings is a dynamic athlete. He pressures the rim like almost no other lead guard in this class. His shooting has exceeded everyone's expectations, and defensively, he's been able to hold up in Kelvin Sampson's system, which is one of the most demanding in college basketball. So this would be a true creating lead guard that Washington can plan around long term that they really haven't been able to get through the last few years of this rebuilding process.
All right, let's go to the Hawks. Right now, Adam, you have them selecting Keaton Wagler, number 6 there overall, as potentially their guard of the future, Kyle.
Yeah, Wagler is one of the most precipitous risers in this class. This is a guy who was ranked number 150 in the 2025 recruiting class. We have him at number 6, and the Atlanta Hawks are obviously in need of their guard for the future. I think Wagler checks a lot of boxes. He's shown he can be an elite shooter. Illinois has trusted him as a true freshman to put the ball in his hands. He leads that team in assists. And just the way that he plays with the confidence, the swagger, and the positional size, I think there's a lot to like here at number 6 for the Atlanta Hawks, getting their point guard of the future.
All right, let's make our way down the board with the Grizzlies. This is a franchise that is very good at developing talent out of the draft. We have seen that in the past. And Adam, you have them taking Mikel Brown out of Louisville. So what are your expectations for Brown and his growth with Memphis?
Well, I think you have to envision a Grizzlies program that is without Ja Morant. They might not have moved him at the trade deadline, but the expectation is that will happen over the summer, certainly in the wake of the Jaren Jackson deal. So it's a rebuild in Memphis, right? And they've got a lot of young assets because they have such a strong recent draft history. What they don't have is their point guard of the future, and Mikel Brown could theoretically provide them that. He's highly skilled. He's got good size. He's a classic late bloomer who sprouted up about 6 inches in his last 3 years of high school. His shooting numbers at Louisville are misleading because he has an ability to really shoot the basketball. He's going to have to buy in defensively and keep building up his body, but I think the culture and the program in Memphis could really help him do those things. And he's a bit of a polarizing draft prospect, but I'm still pretty high on his ability and upside.
All right, Kyle, Fink, hang tight because we still got to go over the rest of the mock draft that's going to be coming up a little bit later here, just after the break. And I love it, Haley, when I get to talk about the Gators.
We do love talking about our
going
teams.
Pro. Tommy Haugh, his pairing with the defending champs. We'll get into it coming up. All right, back here on HQ Spotlight, we are going through Adam Finkelstein's latest mock draft for the NBA. Adam, Kyle, we're picking things back up with the Jazz selecting at number 8. So walk us through what move you're predicting for them.
Well, this is going to get interesting because they are another team that needs to lose in order to keep their draft pick. But they just traded for an all-star and one of the best defensive big men in the league in Jaren Jackson Jr. So maybe expect some sprained ankles or some puzzling minute rotations. But if they are able to stay in the top 8, I think someone like Nate Ament could be a very worthwhile long-term proposition. This is someone who came into the year expected to be a top 5 pick, had a slow start at Tennessee, but as of late is really starting to become the player that we were all expecting. 6'10", nearly ambidextrous inside of 10 feet. He's got great touch, inside out scoring tools. Got to get stronger, but we've seen progress in that area, starting to attack the rim with more force. So in a context of a Utah program that will now have the luxury of developing slowly behind Jaren Jackson and Lauri Markkanen, I think this could make a lot of sense.
Okay, and now this next team, Milwaukee Bucks. This is another interesting situation, right? Because Giannis is still there. Will probably be gone in Orlando playing for the Magic come the summer. No, I'm making that up. Don't quote me on that. Knock on wood, right? But right now, Adam, you have them taking Jayden Quaintance at number 9 overall. But Kyle, how does this fit in a likely post-Giannis scenario there in Milwaukee?
I think it makes a lot of sense. Milwaukee's going to be looking to add some depth, some size to its front court, assuming Giannis is a Orlando Magic, as you alluded to here. This could end up being kind of a lost year for Quaintance, so I think it's one to watch. I think this is high at the moment. He's only played in 4 games. He's coming off a year that ended with a torn ACL, but one of the best defensive anchors in all of college basketball at the center position. Teams are going to be really interested to dig into his medicals, and if they check out the Bucks at number 9, I think could end up taking a huge swing on someone who, if healthy, could end up playing like a top 5 player in this class.
It was interesting because in our tank segment, we were talking about the Bucks, but we didn't really talk about the Hornets, who are selecting at 10 here. They've won 8 straight, playing good basketball. I can't remember if I've ever said that really on air, but we have them taking Koa Peat, Fink. So what does Koa Peat and specifically his physicality bring to this young Hornets squad?
Well, it gives them something they don't already have. I mean, to your point, Jacqueline, they decided to make a push for the playoffs to keep that core together. LaMelo Ball, who's in a lot of trade rumors early in the season, along with Con Kneppel, who's in a race for Rookie of the Year, and, of course, Brandon Miller from just a couple draft cycles ago. Now, as good as that trio has been, the one thing that they really don't have a lot of is rim pressure. Koa Peat, basically a non-shooting four-man at this point in time, but what he does extremely well is he's got an NBA-ready body and he can really get downhill, both off the dribble as well as off of ball screen actions. He's really good in the short roll. So you combine that with a team that's already got plenty of floor spacing, plenty of playmaking, and he really gives them something they don't already have. Could be a very nice fit in Charlotte, which is truthfully why I put him a little bit higher than I have him on our big board.
The fit here with Pete and the Hornets, I think, is fantastic. He's a physical force, as Fink mentioned, relentless attacker, can get inside into the paint, create second chance points on offensive rebounds. And I think he showed some shooting potential this season, although right now it's probably not reliably projectable. So I think for Charlotte at number 10, you could certainly do worse. And I think adding that dynamic, someone who is physical, can bring that element to that team and to that roster would be a fantastic addition at number 10.
All right, now we're talking about OKC. And guys, I think it's fair to say they know talent. We've seen it. They just won a championship. And here we go, taking Tommy Haugh at number 11, which feels like a steal to me, Adam.
Yeah, I figured it might. Tommy Haugh is exceeded all expectations in Florida. And to be honest, he's an OKC kind of guy. He's tough. He's gritty. He plays multiple positions. He can fit into their defensive identity, and he can shoot the floor. For as good as OKC has been, they're about to become a little bit of a victim of their own success, and that it remains to be seen how many members of the supporting cast they can retain around their big three of SGA, Jay Will, and Chet Holmgren. Those guys are so expensive with the rules of the new CBA. Being able to build this out and continue to contend for years to come is going to depend on getting immediate impact guys in low salary spots. The draft provides an opportunity to do that. We know Haugh knows how to win. He's capable of playing a complementary role. I think this would make a lot of sense for OKC.
To Fink's point, I think OKC's objective moving forward in the draft will be finding talent that can contribute very early on cheap contracts. And I think Tommy Haugh, given what he's done this season, shooting a career high 35% from three-point range, he's clearly Florida's best player. And he's been in college a couple years. I think he's ready to contribute in a meaningful way at the NBA level. Now, can he contribute in a meaningful way for an OKC team that is potentially going to go back-to-back with the NBA Finals? We'll see, but I think just given the potential that he could do that on a cheap contract, getting him at number 11, I think would be fantastic value.
I can't tell you guys how many times in this roller coaster of a Gators season I've just been screaming at the television, give the ball to Tommy Haugh. So, Kyle, I think he can contribute, right away. Let's go to the Bulls and leave my bias behind here. A team that seems to rebuild. They dealt 8 players at the deadline, and think you have them going with Chris Cenac. So tell us a little bit more about this potential pairing.
Well, this might sound a little high for Cenac, but I am higher on him than I think most are. When you really dig into his film and go beyond just the box score data, you see someone who is nearly 7 feet tall, is long, is athletic, is already stretching the floor and providing offensive versatility, and then can do it defensively as well. I mean, he's out there guarding opposing fours. He's switching some nights. He's moving laterally. This guy is a really good mover, and he is living up to what Kelvin Sampson is demanding from an effort perspective, which candidly was one of the concerns. So right now, you won't see very many mocks that have him quite this high, but I think as we get closer and closer to draft night, people start to pay attention to not just the versatility, but the untapped upside. Cenac could be a riser.
All right, let's talk about the Trailblazers here. And Scoot Henderson set to make his season debut this weekend. And right now, Adam, you have them taking Darius Acuff. So, Kyle, how does the Scoot Henderson of this all kind of impact what move the Trailblazers are going to make come draft time?
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to me because the Scoot Henderson pick I was very high on. It hasn't quite worked out, frankly, and it's in part because he's just dealt with injuries. But I think for Portland, if you're looking long term, you're trying to find the answer at your point guard position and really haven't found that since Damian Lillard left and came back. So, I think Darius Acuff would make a lot of sense here. He's 4th among freshmen in points per game. He leads college basketball freshmen in assists per game. He can get downhill, create offense. He's a good shooter, positional size. There's a lot to like here with Acuff, and he's producing at a really high level in the SEC. So I think this is a good range for him. Portland would make a lot of sense for him. I think at number 13, this is a pretty good selection for the Trailblazers moving forward, I think.
Okay, finally, let's get to the Spurs at number 14. And Adam, when we think of Wemby, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, who out of this pool of prospects fits in with what they currently have there in San Antonio?
Well, let's complete the starting lineup, right? We need a front court running mate for Wemby, and I think Steinbach is really a good option for that. Hannes Steinbach from Washington, 6'11", can play the 4 or the 5. And I think the way the NBA is trending, getting back to premium size up front, really makes him more valuable. 5 years ago, we would have said he was a little bit of a tweener, but I think next to Wemby, he's going to be very valuable because he's got great hands. He knows how to play pick and roll, has a really good instinct for how to operate in those 2-man games, and he's an efficient shooter as well. The more he can kind of tap into that and really begin to develop his floor spacing abilities, the more valuable he's going to be, especially in a situation like San Antonio where you have Wemby back there and so many guards who can put pressure on the rim. So I really do think Steinbach has an opportunity to be a great fit there.
Fink, Kyle, we certainly appreciate it. I appreciate you letting me go on an absolute diatribe and a soliloquy about Tommy Haugh. I look forward to doing it more often between now and the draft. Appreciate you guys. And of course, Adam Finkelstein going to be pumping out mock draft after mock draft until we get to that point. But CBS Sports has got you covered across multiple platforms. Make sure you check out our CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel. You can subscribe right now by scanning that QR code on your screen.